r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. To anyone who has ordered a mail order bride, what was it like and what happened? My friend Richard has a mail order bride from the Philippines. He's a scruffy redneck long-haul trucker from West Virginia. She's tiny, slender, and 10 years his junior. At first she cooked, cleaned, and kept his bed warm, but after a few years she told him she wanted an education. He put in a ton of overtime and saved up enough to put her through college. She's a physician's assistant now and makes more money than he ever has, but she still makes him dinner and makes a point of always being waiting at the door when he gets back from a long haul. They've been together for 20 years now and it's a joy to see them together. I dated a girl whose dad had a mail order bride. It took them 2 months to figure out why she wasn't learning anything from her English classes. Turns out the school had messed up and put her in German. You can't make this stuff up. I used to work retail with a Filipino woman who was a mail order bride. She was a tiny little thing, around 35 years old, and her husband was a very large, stocky white man around 50-55. I thought it was very weird when she first told me, but when I met him and saw them together, it actually seemed like a nice fit. He was always coming into the store to bring her lunch or to buy her things, and pick her up from work on his motor scooter. It was pretty cute watching them ride it together. It seemed like he really enjoyed spoiling her, and when she talked about him, she seemed very much in love with him. It didn't appear that he was particularly wealthy or anything, but he treated her very well and they seemed very happy. Just before I left that job, she had just became pregnant with their first child. I think an old high school buddy of mine did this. Went off to college on the West Coast, came back with a Thai wife who barely spoke any English. He spoke a bit of Thai, but not much. They were together for about 3 years, then she just up and disappeared one morning, leaving their son behind. Not sure what happened to her. He claimed she went back to see her family. We joke that he killed her. He may have killed her though. I guess he mailed her back. This weird, creepy friend of a friend married one. He was a Desert Storm vet with PTSD and maybe mild autism. We used to go shooting with him sometimes because we were extremely bad at making life decisions. Once, he showed up at my friend's house and no one was home, so he let himself in and sat quietly in the living room with the lights off for several hours until we got back. Gave us a hell of a scare. Anyhow, he met this stunning Ukrainian woman on one of those mail order bride sites and sort of dropped off the map. A couple years later I ran into him at a thrift store and he told me about how they are both bounty hunters now. I knew a guy who owned his own business that got one. He got crushed by a skid steer and she now owns the business and has a new husband closer to her age. Edit. Hot damn, this really blew up overnight. I'll answer questions throughout the morning. To answer a couple of the most frequent. He was killed. Ran over his lower abdomen. There was an investigation, however he was alone and she had an alibi that was backed up by the guy that she is currently with. A skid steer is also commonly known as a skid loader or bobcat. Google is your friend. My dad had one a few years back. He met her online and flew out to get her after a while. She was a shut-in and was legitimately afraid of me because she thought I was smoking pot. Funny thing was that I had never smoked weed at the time. I was 17. It was a weird dynamic. If I was home she stayed in her room, unless I had been in my room for an extended period and she deemed it safe to get food from the kitchen. My room was in the basement, just for clarification. The few times we crossed paths she would see me, gasp and then run to her room. My dad never saw this as a problem. He basically catered to her every want and need. Also, I should mention he was 56 and she was 29. A year later I moved out. Since then she has attacked him on 2 occasions and had him arrested. Eventually he sent her back, or maybe she left, I don't know. I no longer speak to my father, so that's the extent of my knowledge. My dad has a mail order bride. It feels so freaking weird typing that out. Only a handful of people know about it. He met her on a website, flew over to visit, was married by the time he got back, and now I have a half sister. I had a friend of a friend who did it. He was a unappealing neckbeard with a terrible personality. He got a truly gorgeous Vietnamese girl through some bride-to-order agency, who was really sweet and seriously a catch. The girl left him as soon as she legally could, having gained citizenship. Honestly, I think the deal worked out really well for both them. I also think if the guy was worthy of her, or even just a sweet guy, she would have stayed. And this is how I imagine most of these things end up. Creepy white dude with an Asian fetish, Asian chick using him for citizenship, then the girl bounces to a non-creepy dude ASAP. My friend Ken did. She was Russian. She had brain cancer and died 2 years after they got married. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.